You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, welcome to another fantastic episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul and we are here with Haya Costello from Drone DJ to give you this week's drone news. Hiya, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. I know this has been a really news-filled week, and I know a lot of people are excited about what DJI just released, but it seems like the excitement has waned a little bit, and I'm really interested to see what you have for us. I also know that hobby drone rules are changing, and we may be getting a glimpse at our newest drone from DJI. Where do you want to start this week, Haya?
Yeah, let's start with DJI's latest product, the Osmo Action camera. If it looks familiar, it's probably because it very much looks like the GoPro Hero 7 that we all know. DJI decided to launch an action camera and get into that market and compete head-on with GoPro. And a lot of people in the drone industry have been wondering why. Why is DJI even bothering getting into this market? There are already so many alternative action cameras out there. Of course, GoPro with the Hero 7 is like the number one player there. And it seems that part of the reason why DJI is doing this is simply because they can. They already have all the software. They already have all the hardware in place. They're already in the business of flying cameras, if you will, with their drones. So for them to launch a GoPro lookalike, the Osmo Action camera, really is no big deal. However, I do share the disappointment with a lot of people in the drone industry that we would rather have DJI focus on coming out with new drones instead of action cameras.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like I said, kind of in my opinion piece on Drone DJ, I'm really confused why the attention is here rather than why the attention is, maybe on giving us a new drone. But I'm also, I'll just say this, really grateful, Haya, that, we are not getting a new consumer grade or professional grade drone this year. At least that's what we're expecting. And honestly, I'm grateful for that because it gives me a chance to catch up on all of our classes. So I'm actually kind of happy about that. But, I know there's been a lot of questions out there, Haya, about this new Osmo Action Cam. I actually reached out to the Rotor Riot group and asked, do you guys really care about this? Are you excited about it? A lot of mixed reviews. Some people are saying, the front-facing LCD screen or LED screen could actually be useful when you are trying to mount a camera like this on maybe a racing quad. But a lot of people also said that they don't like the 22% crop on the video, especially for racing quads. So I'm not sure that this camera will be accepted very well by the racing community, but that's no shock because they're typically non-DJI flyers anyway. But Haya, I'm wondering myself, how does the camera quality stack up against the Hero 7 Black? Because, they both have very similar features. One has hyper smooth, one has rock steady, but how do they actually compare against one another?
Yeah, I've been using them this week and last weekend simultaneously to compare the camera footage. One thing I can say is that the GoPro has a much wider angle and also a more distorted view, but it does make it easier to get those action shots where you have the camera pretty close to your body. You'll be able to capture more. On the flip side, the Osmo Action, it's zoomed in more, doesn't have as much distortion, which in many cases could be a good thing. And also it seems that the stabilization software, Rocksteady from DJI, is at least as good as GoPro's, if not slightly better. And this is just based on the initial tests that we run. It seems that the background with the DJI Osmo Action is a little bit more stable. So they may actually have done quite a good job there. What I did find, though, is that having that front-facing LCD screen does make it a lot easier to compose and to frame yourself in the shot, but also to kind of make sure that as you're moving, you kind of keep yourself in that frame. So I think there is definitely a benefit to having that screen. If I didn't have an action camera already and I was in the market to buy one, I would definitely take a look at the DJI Osmo Action. Is it a lot better than the GoPro? Probably not. They're pretty much the same kind of camera. But if you don't have one yet, then I would definitely check out the DJI Osmo Action.
You mentioned earlier about, why DJI is going down this path. And it's really interesting because we were talking pre-show about this. And over the last couple of years, GoPro has been kind of attacked by every Chinese manufacturer out there, almost commoditizing the GoPro in essence. And here, the Osmo Action does work with other GoPro accessories. And if you remember, I think it was 2015 CES or 2014, can't remember, DJI and GoPro had booths next to each other at that particular conference. And it seemed like they were going to work together. Everything was fine. And we all know how that story goes. Yeah. Frank Wang and Nick Woodman did not get along for whatever reason. And, GoPro said, screw you, DJI, and made the Karma, which was an epic fail. And then DJI made their own camera series. And now they pretty much purchased Hasselblad, and they've really taken the color gamut and the quality of these images, at least from drones, to a much higher level. Yeah. I would have thought if they would have added a similar sensor to this camera, they could have crushed GoPro. But again, it just seems really interesting that they would enter a market that seems to be already commoditized.
Yeah, and outside of their main focus, which would be drones, of course. If I was GoPro, I would be concerned for sure, because I think they don't have enough in their product lineup, basically, to have a very bright future. I mean, the one product, their main product, the GoPro Hero 7 Black, is being challenged from all different sides. And now to get a competitor like DJI, a company who we know is very fast moving and very aggressive, to have to compete with them as well on your main product line, I think would be a big concern.
Yeah, a big concern to say the least. Well, it'll be interesting to see how everything is accepted by the community as a whole for the DJI Osmo Action. Just a quick warning to everyone out there. Is it correct, Haya, that some of the accessories and some of the batteries are not available yet?
Yeah, it's kind of the same situation as with the Osmo Pocket that they launched back in November. They show all these accessories, and some of them, for many use cases, are quite critical, are still not available for the DJI Osmo Pocket. I'm afraid we're going to see a similar scenario for the DJI Osmo Action, where, again, you have all these accessories promised. One, for instance, is the waterproof casing that will allow you to take that action camera to much greater depths. We don't know when that's going to be available. Same for spare batteries. If you want to have multiple batteries with you as you go snowboarding or mountain biking, so you can hot swap those batteries and keep filming, right now you can buy them. And we don't know when those accessories are going to be available. The fact that it's taken DJI so long to make those accessories available for the DJI Osmo Pocket is a bit worrying, and makes you wonder how long it will take DJI to come up with the accessories for the action camera. One that became available for the Osmo Pocket is the external microphone adapter. Apparently, this one does not work on the Osmo Action. I've tried it. I couldn't really hear any difference in sound quality. So again, for people who want to use the action camera also for a vlogging style of recording, and they would need to mount an external microphone, that's going to be an issue. And we don't know when those accessories are going to be available. Hopefully soon. Sounds
good, Haya. Well, it's good to know what is really available and what isn't. But in this week's next news, it looks like DJI and drone pilots as a whole are having to deal with the American and Chinese trade war and the tariffs that are going on. How did this affect drone pilots, Haya?
Yeah, prices are going up. And the first one we noticed is the DJI Smart Controller. That wasn't cheap to begin with, at $649. DJI now raised the price as of yesterday to $749. Which I think puts it out of the range of many drone pilots. I saw in the comments on our article that people who were considering getting one of those smart controllers have now basically abandoned that idea and said, you know what, at this price point, $750, it's simply too expensive. We've heard that the Ronin S also was affected by a price increase. We don't know of any other products yet that have gone up in price, but with this trade war ongoing, it wouldn't surprise me if those prices keep going up. And of course, also, if the trade war at some point comes to a resolution, you may wonder if those prices are going to go back down again. I mean, last year, DJI raised the price of the Mavic 2 Pro. That hasn't come down. Hopefully, once we get past this trade war thing, DJI will adjust the prices downwards as well. I think that would be more than fair. And I'm looking forward to those days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to those days as well. I would say, I was quite interested in the smart controller when you could control multiple Mavics. But again, the fact that you can't still use third-party apps like Litchi and whatnot for the Mavic really depletes the value of the Mavic as a whole, because with these third-party apps, it makes a lot of the jobs a lot easier. For example, if I want to do construction progress monitoring, using Litchi, I can literally go in, do all of my camera motions, all of my waypoints, the mapping mission, everything all in one, and then save that so I can go back and next week I just click go. So as far as commercial operators are concerned, it's not real. I don't really see the value. I will say I love the ergonomic feel of that remote, but at $750, you have to ask yourself, is this something that is going to help me make money, at least as a commercial operator? So it'll be interesting to see how that is handled by the community as a whole. Now, that being said, there is something that's quite interesting that we have here, Haya. In this next piece of drone news, we all know that DJI has been abandoning the Phantom line, and we may see a new Mavic, but that may not happen this year. But it seems like we may be seeing another new drone. Haya, what do you have for us?
Yeah, this will be the DJI Spark 2. Apparently it was originally planned to be launched late May or early June. Now they're talking about July, so still in the early days of this year's summer. And the rumors are that DJI will launch their Spark 2, most likely at Grand Central Station in New York City, which would be very convenient for me at least. We don't have any images yet. There's no leaked photos, unfortunately, so we don't know to what respect the design will have changed on the Spark 2. I mean, I would imagine they're going to make it more aerodynamic and improve the shape from the original one. But again, we have no photos. We do have information on the specs though. Apparently, the new Spark 2 is going to have 4K video at 30 frames per second. It's going to have an increased video bitrate, so your video footage should be of a higher quality. It will have an improved 3-axis gimbal, which would be a significant improvement versus the original Spark. ActiveTrack 2.0, a 2x digital zoom, increased flight time by 2 minutes, taking it from 16 to 18 minutes, which is still not a lot, but if you have multiple batteries, then you can at least keep flying. There's going to be a new battery design as well, which also means that it will not be compatible with the original batteries for the Spark. So if you have multiple batteries, unfortunately, you will not be able to use those for the Spark 2. No AccuSync 2.0. Spark is too small and it's going to be priced too low probably for that to happen. It should come in 2 colors, black and white. So you can have any color you want as long as it's black or white, I guess, in this case. And there's going to be a new panorama mode. I'm not quite sure what they're going to improve in that regard. I mean, in my mind, a panorama is a panorama. I don't know how you would do that any differently, but hopefully they'll be able to figure out a way to at least up the quality in that area as well. So again, Spark 2 expected to be here in the early days of July 2019.
Nice. It's going to be interesting how some of the other news today is going to affect that Spark 2 sales, but I have to say it's a great training drone. And just a quick warning to anyone who lives in the Southwest or anyone who lives in a very hot, humid area, I would warn against getting a black drone, as you may find that you may have some more issues with batteries overheating and the camera sensor overheating. There's a couple issues, so just be careful if you do end up getting a black drone. I know they look really cool, but you may have less functionality as a whole. All right, Haya, it seems like our next news story for the week is really causing some significant stir in the government as a whole, from the FCC to the FAA. It seems like someone has illegally jammed drone signals to a point that caused a commercial operator who had permission to fly in this area to not fly. And it seems like that this is causing significant issues, especially as more and more people are wondering who has the authority to create geofencing and to mitigate drones that are in particular areas. Haya, what do you have for us this week?
Yeah, this is a very interesting news story. The Ultra Music Festival that takes place in Virginia Key in Florida, so that would be even south of Miami. I think it's under the Miami Police Department's jurisdiction nonetheless. We had a first-hand report of a drone company that was trying to fly an Inspire 2 and an Alta 8 to record the music festival. And they were totally allowed to fly there and record, but they had all kinds of issues, connectivity issues, while trying to fly their drones. And that was very curious. And only later on, they found out that those issues originated from another company who had installed drone jamming equipment at the music festival. And this company's name, let me just look it up here real quick. They contacted the police department, the Miami Police Department, and basically gave them an invitation and said, okay, we're willing to come over to your music festival if you will allow us to jam drones. And apparently the Miami Police Department did allow them to do so, unknowingly breaking the federal laws. So the police department claims that they had no idea that drone jamming equipment and the jamming of drones and unmanned aircraft goes against federal laws. This company did that. They were there, they were available, or they were running their services, if you will. And the other drone company trying to fly their drones wasn't able to do so. Now, of course, the issue here is that the FCC gets involved as well. The latest that we've heard is that the FAA is investigating this situation. We expect the FCC to get involved as well. And it shows that you can't just set up your drone jamming equipment at a music festival or another event that you're planning to hold. There's only really two departments that are allowed to do that. It's Homeland Security and it's the Department of Defense that are allowed to run drone jamming equipment. So even if you're a commercial operator and you have that equipment available, it's not something that you can just set up and run. And in this case in Miami, it's causing all kinds of issues. And we haven't heard the latest on this yet, but expect to hear more on this in the next days or weeks from now.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it seems like the drone industry could end up causing its own problems in the future as we're jamming operations for commercial operators that could end up causing a problem and even a crash. It's fascinating. But I thought the 2018 FAA reauthorization made it extremely clear who can and who cannot use counter-drone technology. So it's really interesting that this is kind of going on because, like you said, they made it very clear. DHS and DOD, those are the only agencies that can use counter-drone technology to prevent accidents. It's really also extremely interesting, Haya, because the drone industry probably has one of the best safety records of the entire aviation industry.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're flying or you're planning to fly drones at a music festival where you'd be flying at least close to crowds and to other people, if not over them, having your drone jammed by another third party who's at the event and you're unaware of could cause all kinds of issues. And I don't know, there's a lot of questions going on here. I mean, if those two companies were involved in the same music festival, how come they weren't aware of each other's presence? And also what I find very interesting is how does the Miami Police Department not know what the federal laws are? And how would they allow a company to come in there with drone jamming equipment who would then break federal laws? I think the whole story is, to me, it sounds kind of crazy. The Miami Police Department denies hiring this company. They just say that they accepted an invitation of that company to come over and run this demonstration of their equipment. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we're not going to have heard the last on this yet, and more news will be coming out soon.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It seems like there are some things in the works that could cause this vigilant company, which is literally the name of the company, some serious problems. But you know what? This is also a good wake-up call for everyone in the security industry to know what you can do and what you can't do with counter-drone technology. Well, Haya, in this week's next piece of news, it seems like hobbyist drone rules are about to change forever. I mean, it's really interesting of where we are today with hobbyist drone rules, Haya.
Very much so, and I think a lot of it's going to change very, very soon as well, starting tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yes, so starting tomorrow, there's actually 2 leaked documents. Let me go ahead and show them to you guys. There's 2 leaked documents that just came out. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the memorandum from the FAA to essentially the Air Traffic Controlling Association. And what this is it is actually showcasing what's going to happen with hobbyist drone rules. Before we go too deep into these documents and what they say, I just want to quickly highlight what's going on. So in 2018, the FAA reauthorization essentially removed the model aircraft definition. So the old 9157 that everyone used to fly under as hobbyist drone pilots, that was the model aircraft rule. And that's actually been around for a very long time. But in 2018, Congress essentially removed that definition and said we have to deal with hobbyists or recreational drone pilots in a completely different way. So we believe that AC or Advisory Circular 9157 Bravo will be coming out either today or tomorrow, which essentially will be showcasing how hobbyist drone rules are going to change. So let me just summarize this really quick for you, Haya. What's going to happen is that essentially, if you're a hobbyist drone pilot and you are in Class G or Class Gulf airspace, well, you can fly up to 400 feet. Everything is fine. Nothing really changes. What changes is when you're in controlled airspace as a hobbyist drone pilot. Now, in the past, you were supposed to notify the tower if you were within 5 miles of an airport. Well, that goes away. Hobbyist drone pilots can no longer fly in controlled airspace unless they are flying at an AMA field that is registered with the federal authority. And it says actually, let me show you. If you go ahead and Google the FAA Visualize It map. This is the UAS FM or the UAS facilities map through ArcGIS. This is a great resource to utilize airspace or visualize airspace as a whole. And they actually added a new layer, as you can see here, the recreational flyer fixed sites. I've got one pulled up here. This is the Santa Fe airspace. So if you want to get an idea of the Santa Fe airspace, let's go ahead and turn on the UAS FM map. Now, if you notice, that area where that controlled tower is in a 200-foot zone. See, it says ceiling on there. So if you want to fly in controlled airspace as a hobbyist or a recreational pilot, you can no longer do so unless you're at a recreational flyer fixed site. The fixed site cannot exceed the ceiling of that particular area. So that's 200 feet. So this is going to fundamentally change where hobbyist drone pilots can fly. Now, here's the other interesting part, Hyatt, is that these other documents, let me go ahead and pull up this document again. These other documents showcase a significant problem with this entire philosophy as a whole if it rolls out as we are seeing here with these leaked documents, which essentially in this document that I have on the left-hand side of the screen, the FAA is telling air traffic facilities that you should no longer accept phone calls from hobbyist or recreational drone pilots. Not only should you not answer those phone calls, but you should send them essentially to the website. And it says recreational UAS operators will be authorized to fly in controlled airspace at fixed sites that will be listed via multiple venues on the Federal Register. Approximately 350 Academy of Model Aeronautics fixed sites are located in controlled airspace, but only 200 are actually listed for recreational UAS sites. So if a bunch of AMA fields were saying, screw drone pilots, well, now they can't fly themselves. So it's kind of funny how that has turned around on them and now bitten them in the butt. But here's the even more interesting part here, Haya. These sites will be more than 2 miles from a runway surface and be required to operate in accordance with altitudes specified in the facility's map. Now, they're also saying that drone pilots, hobbyist drone pilots, can fly outside of those fixed sites if hobby drone pilots go through the Lance system. The only problem is that the Lance system is not set up yet for hobbyist drone pilots, and we're getting word from the FAA that we may not see that system until June. So we're going to be in a limbo kind of situation here for the next few months. But Hyatt, this is really interesting to me because it seems like the order of operations here from the FAA is really not making sense. It's like, hey, you can't fly here anymore. If you want to fly here, you need authorization from us, but the system for us to allow you to fly is not built yet. And it seems like we're creating a system for non-compliance, which is really interesting because we also just recently got that new order on the FAA enforcement guidelines. So what we literally could be setting up here is a playbook for massive enforcement or a playbook for massive uncompliance.
Yeah, Totally agree. And I think there's a good chance of the latter happening, where a lot of hobbyist drone pilots aren't aware of these changes. A lot of people who fly drones for a hobby may not care that much. I mean, they should, of course, because they're flying an aircraft. But in reality, a lot of people just start them up, fly them from their backyard or in their local park and fly their drone. And even under the current system, a lot of people aren't aware that they're flying drones too close to airports. So to expect the real recreational drone pilots to have an app on their phone and to run lands and to get their authorizations through lands, I wonder if that's going to happen. I also wonder how the FAA is going to educate all these hobbyist drone pilots and inform them that these are the new requirements. I think it's a stretch, and especially if you put the requirements and you enforce it, or you put it in place and start enforcing it before you even have that system up and running. I don't know. That sounds a little backwards to me. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree 100%. And, I was asking Vic today, I said, it seems like they're setting this system up with non-compliance, and we already know that hobbyist pilots are absolutely furious who are seeing this, and the racing community doesn't really care. And it's interesting because what's going to happen down the line if, let's say, the latter does come true and non-compliance is rampant as it pretty much already is? How is that going to have an effect on the industry as a whole? What's going to happen down the line? Are we going to be seeing enforcement actions that are then going to give more credence to Part 107? Because this could also do exactly that. These new laws could say, well, if you're under Part 107, you can fly where you want as long as you have authorization. And those systems are already set up, and there's two different systems for it. But it could also be dividing hobbyist pilots and Part 107 pilots. So I'm really curious here, Haya, how this is all going to play out, because again, a lot of people have said, look, you can make rules, but how are you going to enforce those rules? So, yeah. And again, in those last FOIA requests that we've been, getting, less and less enforcements have been happening, but new enforcement guidelines just came out. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Last year in Germany, and we covered this on Drone DJ, they had been running an educational campaign to increase awareness of the risks and responsibilities that come with flying drones as a hobbyist. Like in many other countries, they had their fair share of drone incidents where drones were reported flying close to airports or were even seen by pilots from airplanes. So the German government decided to put more emphasis on the education of drone pilots, hobbyist drone pilots, and they were actually quite successful with that. So it goes to show, or it proves, that educating people can make a big difference in increasing the safety when it comes to flying drones. Now, if you compare that to the American situation, where they put rules in place and make those rules effective, and then require people to use an instrument, the lens authorization tool, that doesn't exist yet for hobbyist drone pilots, you're setting up a system that's destined to fail, basically. So I'm very curious to see how quickly the FAA is going to get the software in place for people to actually use it, but also to see what they're going to do in terms of educating hobbyist drone pilots, because I think that's going to be a key component of this. Pretty soon we'll have the convention in Baltimore, so we'll have a chance to talk to the FAA and kind of find out what their plans are. Hopefully by then they would have announced them already, but I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
Haya, I am really curious to see what's going to happen as well, because we're hearing that we're going to be getting a lot more information about this at the FAA Symposium. And I'm really excited about the FAA Symposium because not only do I get to rub shoulders with my favorite geriatrics, but I also get to go see my friends like you, Haya. So I am actually excited for the FAA Symposium.
Yeah, for sure. So looking forward to seeing you there as well. Maybe we can do a show from Baltimore. That would be fun.
We already plan on doing a show with the FAA in Baltimore. So we're actually really excited to be doing that. And we are already in the works of planning that right now. We're really excited actually about that because, like you said, with the success in Germany in education, I think that you and I actually have a large role to play in this and in this rollout. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all goes down because, look, I want to give more credence to 107, but we're going to need to see some enforcement here. We're going to need to see some sort of action from the FAA to enforce these rules. Otherwise, I think hobbyists, are going to end up like the FCC and CB radios. And I thought that had gone away. And now, here we are again. So it's really interesting to see what all is going to happen. Really looking forward to the FAA Symposium. and looking forward to seeing you as well, Haya. So thank you so much for coming on the show and reporting this week's drone news, there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff to unpack.
I would totally agree. It feels that every week there's more news than we can pretty much cover in our news podcast. But I think we at least covered the highlights this week. I do want to point out that the FAA Symposium in Baltimore is taking place on June 3rd through June 5th. So for anybody interested, those are the days that it will take place. So expect a lot of news to come out on our show then, and also, of course, on our site, Drone DJ. So thanks for having me on the show, Paul. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Haya, and thank you everyone who's listening to this show. Don't forget to leave us a review or go to AskDroneU.com and upload your question for our regularly broadcasted shows. That's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul, he's Haya, and you're listening to another epic news episode of Ask Drone U.